Hello ladies and gentlemen and all the core gamers out there, CAJman777 here, welcoming you to episode 5 of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption today. Last time, we were tasked with finding a GFS ship that was downed in the area of the standard location of Brio, and when we found it, we gained access to two separate locations on Brio. The Thorn Jungle Air Dock and the Fiery Air Dock, which we are currently sitting at. But along the way, we also picked up the Grapple Lasso. I'm sorry, not the Grapple Lasso, the Grapple Swing. So now we can use the Grapple Beam to not only grapple enemies, but we can now use it to swing across gaps. This time, we're here in Fiery Brio tracking down Rundas himself, as his gunship is still here with the engine still warm. Before that, though, I'd like to take this quick opportunity to thank our donors over there on Patreon. Valentine Blaze, MickeyPhorGens, MaddiLeigh, Thomas, Eraisuithon Sotiri, and Liotos, the Lotus, for their continued support to the channel. So without further ado, let us head into Fiery Brio, the place of fuel gel locations. Database access BY44. Stonework represents Yizmid, I can't pronounce that name. The first emperor of the S-Shar dynasty. Alright. So the first thing we're going to do here is we're actually going to knock these wheels with some fuel gel shots, which are going to end up rotating these wheels perfectly. You do need to hit them with a charge beam or the fuel gel will not activate. And then I thought some Shriek Bats were going to attack us, but luckily they didn't. You may notice, though, if I jump backwards two steps, there is a missile expansion up there. I'm in the fuel gel. Ouch. Yeah, don't step in the fuel gel. It hurts. You may notice that there is a missile expansion up there. We cannot get that quite yet. We will be getting that when we can, but we do not have the beam to currently actually get to that. So our only other option is to move into the Foundry of Fiery Brio, where we're going to be greeted once again with Reptilicus, which are a lot like the Reptilicus Hunters, only 100 times weaker. Although I did just use a energy tank to completely obliterate them there. Probably not the best idea to spend a full energy tank just trying to kill two Reptilicus. But keep in mind, this is hyper mode, and enemies show no mercy in this mode. So using everything to your advantage is what you want to do. I cannot do anything there yet. In that room, we are going to have to come back in order to get that. So, fuel gel pumping system is operational and working at maximum capacity. As we all know, fuel gel from the GFS troopers is very important to getting certain things like this platform to rotate. It's also it's a very good fuel supply that essentially powers a lot of the stuff of the Galactic Federation. So now we're gonna head right into here. But before I do that, let me scan this piece of lore before I miss it, because I nearly missed it. And if I didn't scan this one, which I did, Briolian data translated: Age of Schism. Or Schism. In time, the wonders of science were not enough for those who held the primal traditions in their hearts. The warnings of the Chozo to seek balance between the old and new ways were not heeded by the lords of science, myself included. We forged on, ignorant of the rage in the hearts of the primals. The time came when Siphamus, the first lord of science, denounced the primals and their traditions in the center of the royal city. It was as a flame to a dry forest. The age of science ended, and the age of schism was born. So there was a separation between people who valued the old tradition of the Briolian race, and obviously those who developed science, and as the Chozo warned, be careful not to stray too far into the brave and noob. Now, we already saw these creatures before. I need to get some on my ball so I can float. Join me. Carry me to the big evil thing that's up top there that I actually don't want to go to because it's evil. And give me there. All right, let's go. Go. Gotta fly up. Oh, why does it do that? I think if I bomb this quick enough, I'm actually able to avoid it. I am. Okay, sweet. I just wanted to make sure I could do that because I am going to go to this top section, which has a missile expansion. That was the reason I wanted to go to the top section. There's a missile expansion behind that. We are picking up a lot of missiles very quickly. We are going to need them very soon. Maybe not in this episode, but definitely in the next. We are going to need them. And you will see what for in time, as well as now we just need to float up to the first platform here. So we're going to get a ton of these little spreaders. Kind of just wanting to hop on, have a good time, as I'm just going to bomb them off. Get off me, I say. Be gone. They're not welcome here. So if you turn to the right here, we're going to end up coming back here. Abnormal energy signatures detected beyond the frozen formation. High temp beams could melt the ice. Unfortunately, we do not have the plasma beam. Oh, did I just spoil that? High temp beam. I mean, it's a plasma beam. What are you expecting? It has always been high temp. But yeah, we're going to end up getting the plasma beam later down the line. And we are going to have to come back here to get an upgrade as well. I'm not going to spoil what the upgrade is for those who have not played the game yet. But we're going to come back here for an upgrade later down the line. So let's break this missile door, and let's take care of these two hoppers really quickly. You may notice there is also a very ominous tone right now. I am going to just constantly shoot these hoppers with as much damage as I can. There we go. Picks up some missiles, and as, of course, we're going to walk toward this, and our way is currently blocked by some Phazon. Phazon overload detected. Rapidly press A to expel Phazon. Ladies and gentlemen.
Samus, we just received very abnormal readings from your life support systems. Are you okay? As a precaution, we are downloading the diagnostic data from your suit to further analyze this situation. We will contact you again if we have any more information.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you just witnessed was us becoming corrupted. Which means, the next time we go into Hypermode, I'm going to show you what's going to happen. And this is a perfect spot to show this, so let me activate Hypermode very quickly. I'm going to stay in Hypermode for 5 seconds. Or is it 10? Notice how the gauge turned red. If you do not get rid of all this Phazon in time, you will become corrupt. And it's game over. But in the red state of Hypermode, the corrupted state, you can maintain it provided you shoot your beam back and forth. And as I stated, if you let that red gauge, though, get all the way to the top and you do not expel enough Phazon fast enough after that, you're corrupt. You become fully corrupted, and it is game over. I am not going to show what happens when you become fully corrupted, because that would waste a lot of time that we just kind of progressed in this episode. So I'm going to tell you what happens. Essentially, if you become corrupted by Phazon, there's a little cutscene that plays, and you end up turning into Dark Samus, and the game just ends. Right there, and you go back to your last checkpoint. Now, because we have the PED suit, the reason I was standing in that Phazon and not taking damage is because the PED suit allows you to stand in Phazon and heal, which is very nice. So now it's technically like a free energy refill, but yes, the corruption is now in our body, but we can use this to our advantage in a boss fight. And a lot of boss fights, we can use that to our advantage. We can force ourselves to stay into hyper mode, allowing that red gauge to refill as we shoot certain hyper beam attacks to deal damage. It's not only a great way to still avoid damage, but it's also a great way to deal damage, because still, as we're in hyper mode, we're obviously invulnerable. The neat thing, though, or the bad thing, though, some enemies can force you into a Phazon overload state where you will have to rapidly expel Phazon. Luckily, at that time, it won't use an energy tank if it's forced onto you, but you'll see that can become very dangerous. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Rundas, the person we are looking for. Notice, though, how it got all eerily quiet for a second. Usually when that happens, you're going to be greeted by some new threats, and this is where we're going to get our opportunity to show how this new corrupted hyper mode form works. Morphology: Warp Hound, teleports over short distances, vulnerable to cold-based attacks. Warp Hounds are susceptible to low-temperature attacks due to their nature of their thermal energy-driven biosystem. They are often used by Reptilicus as guards and hunt beasts. They consume fuel gel to survive and can expel blasts of converted thermal energy to attack and defend. The creatures can teleport over short distances, disrupting many forms of electronic targeting in the process, which means during that time you can't lock on. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to go into hyper mode here, but I am going to stay in hyper mode as I fight these guys, and I'm actually going to let the corruption take over here, because I can stay in this form for 25 seconds at maximum, which allows me to not only use the hyper mode to my advantage, but it allows me to kill a lot more enemies in a much faster process as well. Unfortunately, though, when you do become corrupt and this bar does go red, I will show you in a moment here as this disengages, and I hope the gauge isn't filling. While I do this, I'd be a little upset. You cannot cancel hyper mode during this. You have to force yourself out of hyper mode. You can either let the auto vent do it or something else. But it's super advantageous to stay in that mode and let the auto vent kick in if you can. Brioian data, Age of War. In the beginning, the conflicts were small, out of sight for most on Brio, but they grew, slowly, but as steady as the coming of the sun. Diplomacy gave way to brutality, and war came to our world. The Lords of Science turned their minds from exploration to destruction, and unleashed horrors unknown upon their primal enemies. In retaliation, the primals turned to the darkest of ancient powers, cursing us, the Science Lords, and all who served our cause. Friends from the stars tried desperately to end the conflict, all in vain. The people of war would not be denied. So there is the war that started it all, and now we need to activate this very quickly, and that will activate our first bomb slot there. And now we are going to use these bomb slots to our advantage so we can do things very quickly. And you may notice it did create a couple of these grappleable enemies that unfortunately we cannot grapple because these are the smaller ones that have no exoskeleton, but I do want to remove these enemies from this area as fast as possible here so we can remove the over-impending threat that is the little warp guys. They're very annoying. I don't like them. But of course, we do have a bit of a bigger puzzle in this room to solve. So let's start by locking onto this and grappling it and pulling it down. There is also one on the other side, I believe, that we need to pull across. Yes, we do. There we go. So now that is the first part of the puzzle done. Gonna hop in here. Gonna pump this a few times. You gotta pump it. You gotta push the Wiimote back and forth. Point the Wiimote at the screen. You push. You pump it. And you pump it. You gotta pump it up, you know. You have to pump it up like everything else. And of course, it's gonna activate some fuel gel lines, which you can then hit with a charge beam shot. Which I missed the second shot. I always somehow miss the second one. And that is gonna give us our path to move across this location. Which, obviously, as you saw on the other side of this, there is another morph ball bomb slot, which I will be just, I have to activate first because it's, everything in Fiery Brio is pretty much powered by fuel gel. So let's pop up here, activate this. And that's going to raise the platform for us a little bit further. It's going to drop some more enemies out as well at the very top. I believe those are the grappleable ones. The grappleable, that's a tough word to say. Grappleable. Grapple, bleh. God, that is a tongue twister. It's not. Is that even a word? I don't even know. I don't even care. But that's a tough word to say. Can I rip the? Thank you. That is the problem sometimes with the nunchuck not working. You just kind of gotta tear them out. They have electric. I also just apologize. I smacked my mic. I hate these things because you have to grapple them, and they're really annoying when they're out of range. You suck. I hate you. So if we scan this on the wall, pipe system uses source surplus fuel gel. Capacity is currently at max. So what we're going to do here, we're going to grapple this to knock that out of the picture. We're going to ignite the fuel gel. Going to ignite another thing of fuel gel. And that is going to blow up the entire pipe system that we just scanned, revealing a giant morph ball bomb track behind it, which, you know, it's kind of cool. Got to have some really cool stuff going on in these puzzles here. Also, this music, by the way, if you guys haven't been listening to it through my commentary, it's very ominous, isn't it? This isn't even the scariest area, and I'll explain why when we get further, but this is not the scariest area in the game. For those of you who have played this game before, I'm sure you know what area I'm talking about. That remains the most intimidating area in this game to deal with. But I don't want to spoil it yet, because it's going to be a long way before we get there, because I always do it at the end game. And it isn't technically an end game thing, so we'll get there when we get there. As you can see, some puffers have been released along with some pillars, which is going to solve the puzzle for us, which is very nice. Now we just got to get rid of these gel puffers. Try not to get hit by their toxic gas and get some nice charge beam shots onto these guys really quickly. You do kind of have to aim ahead of targets sometimes, but this little ledge here, as the thing it just said, this is a grab ledge. It's a new thing introduced into Metroid Prime 3. You jump up to it, and you get a little cutscene of Samus just flipping onto it. Of course, the door is already open for us, so we're just going to murder these gel puffers. And now there's a bit more of a puzzle in this room that we have to solve. You may notice that there is a fuel gel line right up here with a fuel gel monster here. If we shoot the main fuel gel, you may notice that some fuel gel comes out of its face. Or nose, in this case. So, what do we have to do? Well, essentially, you do have to wait for the fuel gel line to activate. You're going to activate it about here. And it should fry the fuel gel line for you, dropping a platform that was adjusted on the ceiling right for you. That way you can get a missile tank. Now, there are 2 items in this room. Technically, one goes further back, but there is an item down that way that we can't quite get yet, but we'll be able to get it soon. And I can't really explain why we'll be able to get it soon, but I'll explain why we can get it relatively soon. But what I'm thinking here, let me see. Yeah, I think, ladies and gentlemen, right here, I know it's a bit of a shorter episode, but there's something I want to save for the next episode itself. So I'm actually going to call this episode here. I know it's the shortest episode of the series so far, but I actually expect there to be a couple short episodes of this series, because there's a nice surprise I want to show you guys coming up in the next episode, and something really cool and really awesome I really like to show off in the next episode. So I'm going to leave this episode here for now, as we've finally gotten pretty much through the entirety of Fiery Brio. We're going to finish off getting through the rest of Fiery Brio in the next episode of Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. So until then, this is CAJ Man 777 signing off. Stay safe, everybody.